In this video, we're going to experiment with some text-to-image generation in Runchat and look at a few patterns that'll make your ideation a lot faster and produce more interesting results. I'll start by double-clicking the canvas and typing in SDXL to create an SDXL node. SDXL is a pretty classic text-to-image model. It's fast and very cheap, which makes it a good one to experiment with. For final stuff, you're probably going to want to swap in something more modern, but this is just for exploring ideas. So I've given it a prompt, something specific enough to get an interesting result, but simple enough that we can play with it. For architectural stuff, I usually find it helps to mention the lighting and the rendering style, not just the subject. That last bit, architectural photography, nudges SDXL towards more grounded imagery. And here we go. Pretty boring first take. One image is usually not enough when you're trying to get a feel for where a concept could go. You want to take a few takes or so you can compare and pick a direction. So SDXL has a variation setting right on the settings bar at the bottom of the node. I'm going to turn this up to 4 and run it again. So I've got now 4 takes on the same prompt. I can page through them. If I turn it to pages view, you can see each of them. Or I can use table, which is the default view, to see them side by side. So let's keep making this more interesting. So right now my whole prompt is one lump of text. If I want to see what the pavilion looks like in timber instead of concrete, I have to come in here and rewrite the prompt each time. That's totally fine. It's not a problem, but we can do something fun with Runchat where we extract a piece of the prompt out into its own node. And then we can iterate on just that piece really quickly without having to think about the rest of the prompt at all. So I'm going to add a text input node and type in concrete. This is a simple node that just holds a value. I'm going to grab its output and rename this to material. So if we go back to the SDXL prompt, I'm going to press the @ key. And if I use the keyboard, I can select this input material here. So I pick my text input and it drops into this prompt as a little tag. So if I run this, we should get the same 4 concrete variations as before. But now if I change this to rammed earth and run again, without touching the SDXL prompt, I get 4 completely new variations. So if I change this to translucent glass, different vibe, this is the pattern. You can pull one piece of the prompt out into its own node, and suddenly you can explore that one piece really quickly without rewriting anything else. And here's where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. So the text input is just one way to drive this. You could also swap it for any other node that produces text. An agent node that could take a brief and generate a list of several different materials for you to try would be pretty cool. So why don't we give the agent a try? To output a list of images, I can select the output here and select list. And I'm going to request, so create a number of different mood boards. Now we can set this as our parameter. So we're taking this output of artifacts, which is a list. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values here. So each one of these will be a separate run of this node, which then means that right now it would create 20 images. So instead, I'm going to turn variations down to 2 images. And so for each one of these items in this list, it will create 2. And then I'm going to play this and let's see what we get. So pretty uninspiring results with SDXL, but let's try a more interesting model like Imagen Fast and see what we get. So you can see that it's fairly easy to start with a simple prompt. You can crank up variations to see a few takes. And then when you spot a piece of the prompt that you want to iterate on quickly, you can pull it out into its own node, reference it using the @ keyword. It's a small shift, but it opens up how fast you can explore. And then in the next video, we'll take the same idea and apply it to a rendering from a screenshot. If you want to play with this workflow yourself, there's a link in the description. See you in the next one.